special guest for this afternoon's show is one of the most sought after executive coaches, sales trainers, and motivational speakers in the automotive space. With over 38 years experience, folks, he has trained thousands of sales consultants and managers across the United States. He's one of the nation's foremost authorities on NLP. And I actually did a whole show on NLP, NeuroLinguistic Programming. I had no clue what it was until then and how it relates to the sales process. So combining his frontline experience with what he has learned from the nation's top sales masters, he's cutting-edge seminars, workshops, dealership programs provide salespeople, managers, and dealers with knowledge, strategies, and tools that continue to create profitable long-term solutions and results. It's my privilege, folks, to welcome to the Reid Method Insider Show, Brandon K. Hardison. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Now, the one thing about introducing you, it was tricky because your profile was like several pages, and you've got several, accomplishments, degrees, and all that cool stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy is like off the charts. So why don't you share with the audience a little bit more about yourself? Because I'm like, it's better you do it than me, because it'll take me forever.
Okay, appreciate it. Let me see if I can swoop it real quick. From the projects of Trenton, New Jersey, the capital.
Yes, been there.
And I had an opportunity at a young age to do two things. My father, when he wasn't working for the railroad, had his own body shop. And if you can think, in the 50s and the 60s, automotive dealerships did not have collision centers in their campus. So he would do the work and bring the finished work to the dealership. It was, for me, a youngster, like going to a candy store to see all this new metal while he was getting paid, going over the paperwork, watching the salespeople interact with the guests and say, wow, this is a beautiful thing. So that was one thing. Second thing, I come from an area where the American Revolution is a big thing, especially Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas night. And as a fifth grader, I had an opportunity to do old TV. If I said Huntley, Brinkley, Walter Cronkite, I don't know if some of those people would know those names. I know the names,
but I've seen a few.
I tried out and I got a part to do one of those announcers as Washington was crossing the Delaware.
Wow.
But what I did was take it to another level, and I got out my chair and was actually on the water saying, hey, General, can you tell us, how do you feel going? But the people in the audience said, he's got something. And they grabbed me, and all through middle school, I was introduced to something called public speaking. I say that because it helped me out. I was class president of my freshman class, and I was class president of my high school senior class, but all because I was introduced at a young age to how to command this thing called public speaking.
Yeah. And that's what this episode's going to be about, is developing those public speaking skills, both as from, at a young age, and also how it helps us to expand socially and professionally, especially today with so much social media and, electronic mediums where young people don't speak or don't communicate in person or speak as much. But you're going to definitely share with us what that looks like, or how they should approach that. So what made you get involved in, and you started to just share that part with us. So that was actually part of the first question. It was, what made you get involved in public speaking, and why do you think it was crucial to your development, and to your professional as a career?
Thank you for that one. The very first time I really felt nervous, even though I practiced with a coach about speaking, our junior high school, they didn't have middle schools. Elementary was K through 6, junior high school was 7 through 9, high school was 10 through 12. but at our junior high school, we were building a new wing, and we were going to name it after Thurgood Marshall. He was coming to receive a plaque when we opened. That's when I got nervous about doing a speech. And I was back in the bathroom trying to put it all together. And Thurgood Marshall comes in.
Wow.
And said, "Oh, you're the guy that's going to introduce me with," he said, "Here's 2 quick things to remember. Keep eye contact on one group of people, left, center, right. And then the second thing, always smile." Now,
Yeah.
I didn't have time to ask him why all those things. I just said, "Sure, anything you say, Judge, I'll go do that." But that was the platform takeoff to see how the people received it in the audience. And I said, wow, there must be something to that, which led to debate teams, mock trial teams, and different things there.
So what made you, I mean, why do you think developing confidence in public speaking at a young age is so important to children?
The biggest thing that they get out of it at a young age is this. It's going to stay with them forever, and people are going to look to them for 3 things as they go from high school, college, and into the adult world. 1, they can win over crowds.
Yeah.
Don't know what the issue is, but they're going to stop and they're going to listen. Second thing, if you need to move or motivate people, if you will, once again, if you can command that public speaking, people will act in kind. But the biggest thing, to inform. So now I'm an adult and I have a child. You want that child to be raised the way you want them? Well, they're going to have to respect you to enough point where they understand what you expect out of them consistently with that. But those would be 3 big things that I think, coming from a youngster to adulthood, that you could really master and pick up from that.
So with that said, why do you think then public speaking is important as you progress through into adulthood?
Okay. 1, relationships. And here's the biggest thing that I run into, and you probably still run into it, but I know it's part of what I do. I go to college, high schools, talk about alternative, because we need technicians in the automotive field. We need people who can do collision center. They don't have to owe the government all this money. But every time I go, I sit with students and do mock interviews. Do you know how, I know you do, but do you know how tough it is to ask a question and just get a 1-word response?
Yeah, that's painful. It can be painful.
And I try to tell them that to anyone on this side of the desk that has the job, that resume is just a piece of paper. You have to make it come alive. It's your story.
Yeah.
The more you get me to a point where I'm picking up my popcorn and looking for my Coke, you got me hooked. And I tell them there's nothing wrong on the resume. If you want to pat yourself on the back, pat yourself on the back. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a competition for an opportunity to do a better lifestyle change that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, that communication is so valid. And we talk about this. I just had another episode recently with Mr. Martin Buckland, who's an elite resume and careers coach. And it's great to have a fantastic resume, but if you can't speak a lick, I mean, if you can't communicate, there's your first problem, you know. And I think it's such a valid point right now with college graduates, with, you know, so-called millennials, if you want to kind of group them. I mean, everybody else, you know, relates to them as millennials. So, but there's just a little too much time focused on their cell phones and their computers and text messaging, as opposed to communicating via voice. And I've seen it recently where, people would try to go back and forth with 10 different messages, and it's 10 one way, it's 10 the other way, and that's 20 messages. And half hour later, you're still at it when it would have been a 3-minute phone call, right?
No, you got
with
it.
emotion, with the tonality, with a solution, for crying out loud, right? An agreement as to what the next steps are.
You got it.
So this is a big deal in my opinion.
Here's the biggest thing, and I'm going by some customers, guests. When I debrief them, we have a process. I teach managers as a process. After the customer receives their manufacturer questionnaire, their CSI.
Yeah.
So now there's no money involved. It's 2 months later, 3 months later. Now call that person back up and ask why they purchased there.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I've been getting. I like the brand. It's been around for 40 years in the community, so we expect to be treated a certain way. But you know what? I was kind of disappointed face to face with the sales consultant, because on the TikTok little video, it was funny, and that's what made me come in. But I would ask a question that they couldn't articulate it back.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm finding with a whole lot of young salespeople. They can clip and edit and do all kinds of things to get the guest to the showroom. But once they get there, they have no command of the English language, where we can actually find out the needs, wants, and desires that that customer is looking for.
It is a vital stage to selling any product, especially automobiles. It's one thing to meet and greet, or it's one thing to get a client into your showroom, but you'll lose them in about 5 seconds with that, with the greeting and with the lack of communication, because as you well know, this is the opportunity, this time, this golden time, especially the first few minutes, is the opportunity to build rapport.
That's it.
And to lay the foundation onto which this whole relationship will go. And it is a relationship. It's not a car buying process as it is a relationship building process, because there are several locations and stores they can get the same product. And ideally, clients are shopping for that salesperson that's relatable to them. Yep. And you may be relatable by text and over messaging because it's words and you're saying the right words and using the right emojis. But what about when you come in and, and you meet and greet? How do you then take that to the next level? And that's what customers ultimately want, because you and I know even the online shopping experience, there's only so much you can do online. And yes, you can get a car delivered to your house and to your driveway, but the majority of people, that's still not what they want. They at least want a little bit of interaction.
That's it. People still buy from people. And the old process about any business, it's people in the process. But if the processes are intact, I just need to find the right person who can operate inside that process. But here's another thing. The conversation, the consultation, like you said, selling anything, the rapport building, it's like we've lost that skill. We don't know how to talk about their family or what they want to do with that vehicle. Oh, you're taking it out west. Boy, I would love to go out west always. They don't know how to have a conversation. Like you said, emoji, here's an emoji. Let me put a smile up there. But the person wants to buy from a human being. Based on the last statistics that I saw from the National Automobile Dealers Association, 70% of people said that they purchased where they did because they liked, trusted, respected the sales professional. Said nothing about price, said nothing about payment. They liked, trusted, respected, or had a good, like you said, good conversation, rapport building time with them. So Today's youngsters are missing out on that.
Yeah, and to take that a little further, it's important that when clients come into your showroom, that you have, once you've established the communication base, you've done the greeting, you've done all the niceties, and you know what car. I've had a client, and I just created a video recently about this, where a client said to me, I really like this car that I currently have. You sold me a great car before, but and she goes, it has a lot of oomph, it has a lot of get up and go. So I want to replace it with something that has get up and go. Like so it's listening to those clues.
Ooh.
And being able to get that out of the client. What have you enjoyed most about your current vehicle? Just to ask a simple question like that, it's golden in terms of the direction that you would be going, because they're going to tell you pros and cons, what they loved about it, things that they'd like to improve, and things they'd like to have in their new vehicles or their new experience. And this is what you're selling, is that experience. And if you can't communicate the experience and how to get the experience, you'll have some problems.
Oh, you hit it on the head. They know how to buy. I need to know how you want me to guide you through this maze that you don't come to every day. But I need to ask you a series of questions and not be afraid to ask some follow-up questions. Well, what happens if you can't get? Have you thought about, we're losing that soft art. And then I'll stop with this here. I train everyone, I don't care if it's up and down the street, major account, key account, retail sales. After you think you've gotten enough information, do you recap?
Yes.
Let me make sure I'm having a good Friday. You said, I didn't say it, you said it had to be this model at this trim level with this pack. It does wonders, because you said a word earlier, listening. Salespeople don't listen, or people in general don't listen.
Yeah.
We like to talk, but we don't like to listen.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the success steps that I touched on in my book, is definitely recapping, the key areas, making sure that there's consistency, making sure that there's an understanding, because that's the relationship. And when you recap, like you're suggesting, and you're going down the list and checking off the list twice, so to speak, what you're saying to your client is, you've actually been paying attention to their needs.
Yep.
You've actually heard them, not just because you took the notes, but you wanted to reaffirm, to make sure you have an understanding. And ultimately, the understanding is what helps to build trust. So this is all part of why communication skills are so vital. So with that said, any personal strategies that you have used or utilized or employed in your speeches, for example, that that are vital to progress in the conversation?
Excellent. There are some things that I can throw out to you now, but if anyone has watched any of my videos on public speaking, it's the P word of practice. Practice, preparation. People do not do that. I know that we're in this industry, so I like watching a whole lot of these wonderful gimmicks, conversations, and what's going on, but here's a mistake, here's a mistake, here's a mistake, here's another mistake. And I watch it the next time, and they have not corrected it at all. It's the same thing that's there. So I don't know if they have a team or a producer or somebody who can just pull them to the side and say, that's not apropos. Don't do that anymore. So practice is still the biggest thing on the plate. I don't care if you've been doing this forever, still practice.
So what I discovered in a little bit of my research for this show is public speaking can be a great way to build. It's a great self-esteem booster. That's number one, because the more you do it, the more comfortable and the more confident you become. Right. It's a great way to meet people, whether it be socially or professionally. It's a great way to get contacts. I mean, if you can't speak, if you're going to be an introvert and say, okay, well, I'm an introvert, so I'm not even going to try, okay, then that's what's going to happen. But it's a great way socially and professionally to meet contacts that can actually, help you evolve and progress your career. And I also found that public speaking involves implementing some critical thinking. So if you're actually going to speak to a particular subject, a little bit of research is involved, is necessary. There's principles, there's standard of evidence. So you have to back up what you're talking about. If you're selling a
Correct.
car and you're speaking to a client about packages and options and lease options and finance options and features and benefits, you have to be able to back up your facts. So
Correct.
this is how it helps with developing your public speaking skills. So let me ask you, if an individual goal for someone to impact and to impact their group, to impact their company, to impact the world, to impact the community, how do you think public speaking as a platform can help that person or those individuals?
Well, one thing, the choice of words that they use will be a little bit more elevated than anyone else in the room. That'll be the first signal, and the other people will know it. They used to call them the 10-cent throwaway words or 20, but there's a reason why I'm using this particular word at this time. You can, I'll say it again, command or win over a crowd. So if you're in a department meeting and you're trying to meet a deadline and you've done your R&D on something and I need you folks to buy into it, you got to state your case. Like you said, do your research with that. But here's the biggest thing to me, the power of persuasion.
Yes.
That's what a good public speaker gets and other people struggle with.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I'm
here's my
glad you
problem.
brought that up.
Oh, no, good.
Yeah, because that's ultimately what you are doing in a showroom floor. Even if they know that that's the vehicle they want or this is the product they want, how do you persuade? Not shove it down their throat, but how do you reaffirm to persuade that yes, this is the right option? Or let me show you another alternative how to get that option. Or like you said earlier, have you thought about considering this way? So yeah, these are very, very key points. Persuasion, absolutely.
Sure.
So
But
can you explain? Sorry?
No, go, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So here's the part that you need to explain to me again, because I'd have to go listen to the episode I did before on NLP. So can you explain how NLP, NeuroLinguistic Programming, helps, and how does this fit? How does it fit in to public speaking and being better at it?
All right, very good. NeuroLinguistic programming is an exact science. I don't know about Canada, but here in the States, our military is the guinea pigs. They try any new innovation. If it works and successful, then it comes into business. So after World War I, we learned some things, and it was introduced in the 20s here. But the short and skinny of it, it's how people learn. It's how people take in information. Years and years and years ago, if you remember, a teacher would get in front of a group and just lecture and bell to bell. Well, maybe I don't learn from just listening to you auditory.
Mm-hmm.
I need some visuals. I need a film to back it up. I need
slides or something.
And then I learn by small group, or give me a project and let me use my touchy-feely or the kinesthetics, because that's how I learn. Now, a good leader, a good coach who knows their team, knows how to interject what part of the NLP, or incorporate it all, to get the final results that they're looking for. And that's what I have done over the decades with sales managers, F&I managers, salespeople. But I started it in the classroom. I taught high school for 10 years, and I did things that were a little bit different. They gave me awards. I don't know why, but it's just that I kept kids interested, and I taught history. But the reason being is that I don't know quickly how 40 of you learn, but let me look a little bit of video, a little bit of small group. I'll lecture excitedly a little bit, and we should be able to understand this material a little bit better. But NLP, people lose out on a lot, but you need to use it more. And you said that you did a story on NLP?
Yeah, we did an episode on that. I think it's episode 25. I'll have to go back and double check.
Excellent.
But which, now that we're discussing it again a little bit here, I think I'll need to go back and touch on it again, or read up a little bit on it. But yeah, so there are some groups here in Canada, since you mentioned it. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when I discovered what it was. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd like to come on your show and talk about NLP." And I'm like, "What's NLP?" So, but you learn, and that's what we do on this show, is that we learn. This is a personal development, sales, and business success show, and we bring on all the new stuff, the exciting stuff, the difficult stuff. We tackle success from different angles, including, folks, developing public speaking skills to expand socially and professionally, as we're discussing today in episode 75 with my special guest, Mr. Brandon K. Hardison. Are you in New Jersey today, Mr. Hardison?
No, I'm originally from New Jersey, but for the past 16 years, I've been down in the deep South in a place called Atlanta.
Well, I have a lot of contacts in Atlanta, and I've had to lay over there or connect there quite a few times.
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely, and I have relatives there too. So definitely, Atlanta, one of those places that I frequent. But so let me ask you one of the final questions is, in your opinion, do you see NLP programming being produced in greater or providing greater rewards, both socially and professionally, and how so?
Excellent. Since COVID hit, there's been a few companies that have gone to school districts and added NLP as an outside vendor into the standard curriculum.
Wow.
Because teachers, once again, just like trainers, we want to use that excuse. I couldn't see Mr. Reid's body language. He could be reading some crib notes somewhere because I'm not there with him. But no, NLP will work anywhere if you set it up properly. So that's the first change that I see that's coming down the pike. The second change, if things do go right, and students in large numbers will have an opportunity to go back to that brick and mortar, especially at the elementary, they're going to start giving them public speaking at a young age. And that's the best thing that can happen, because as a youngster, if I'm more comfortable with myself, I'll be more skillful to express myself as I become a teenager and as I become an adult in the working place.
Absolutely. So it's it's vital to introduce communication, and speaking is a part of. Well, let me put it this way: I see no better way to develop communication skills than initially being able to speak, to articulate, to ask questions, to do research, to rebuttal, to disagree, in all these ways, because this is all a learning experience. It's just amazing. So I definitely, I want to thank you for actually suggesting this topic, because I don't know if I'd have ever looked at it from this perspective. Number one, and how it affects kids and adulthood, and all the way up to the profession, and all the way how it affects the communication on the showroom floor selling cars or any other product for that matter.
Or any
right?
Yeah.
And so before we end, Brandon, what are 3 takeaways that you'd like to leave our audience with as we close off on how to develop your public speaking skills to expand your social and professional abilities?
One thing, do not have anxiety about speaking in front of a crowd. No one says that you're getting paid because that organization brought you in to talk to that department. It could be something as simple as a wedding reception, and they caught you off guard and said, how about giving a toast? You still got that audience watching you, and now you're all tensed up and say, I can't do it. The anxiety will go away the more you, and I'll say that bad word, practice. People do not want to practice anything, but when it comes to public speaking, they'll shut down in a minute. Second thing, earn the crowd early. And what do I mean by that? You know people, I know people. We were talking about one before we came on.
Yep.
If you're a comedian and you like jokes and it's a nice story, start off with the story. Get the crowd warmed up on your side. It will relax you, it will relax them, and now you can give your message. Third thing, the takeaway. How are you going to hit them? Because you have to smack them in the face. They're going to have to realize, right? Everett's not kidding. Yeah, I'm just what he's saying. And then give them the step-by-step of how to overcome or research more of it. Give them a takeaway that they can utilize and be better at. Those would be 3 quick things that I could think of right now.
Absolutely. Well, folks, this show, this has been the 75th episode of the Reid Method Insider Podcast, and we've had on this episode today Mr. Brandon K. Hardison out of Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, and just before we go, Brandon, what do you do today? What's your primary role today? I know you're at colleges, universities. What's, and especially with the COVID world that we're in right now?
I'm pretty much coaching automotive groups on how to better themselves. Naturally, the sales is the biggest thing, but it can be phone work. But now it's HR. If I can leave your people, and I hope they're parents and guardians that are listening, when I go to high schools, I tell them that there are 2 things that happen where you cannot keep a job, and it has nothing to do with the employer's job description. One is attendance. You said you would be here at this time, and you didn't call, didn't text. All you did was show up and said there was a wreck on the interstate. That's not going to make it. Then you wonder why you didn't keep a job, and they're trying to get me. Second thing, attitude. Once again, not on the job description. You control that. The reason why I bring up the attitude, the people that have the biggest problems were the ones that were not good public speakers when they were young. There were always ones sitting in the back, not saying that they were bad people, but they never learned how to express themselves without getting into fisticuffs. But those would be the things that I would say that they would need to be doing right now. I would look on that, because
those are some valuable tips. Absolutely. And
sure.
We'll definitely share them, folks, in the episode, in the audio version, when we produce this and post this up on iTunes, LinkedIn, SoundCloud, Spotify. We're actually on Spotify now as well. So, and wherever you get your podcasts. So, folks, we always love hearing from you. We always appreciate your feedback. So go ahead and email us at insider@reidmethod.com. Reach out on messaging to me or my team. And please subscribe. We've got a revised and new and improved YouTube page under my name, Everold Reid. So subscribe to the new YouTube page. You'll see the edited versions of this show on YouTube. So that will be up, and stay tuned for the audio version coming up as well next week. So guests like Mr. Hardison, we appreciate him. The show is full of top speakers and guests such as Mr. Hardison. I mentioned earlier Tom Hopkins, Les Brown. We have coming up pretty soon again, 3-time World Series champion Todd Stottlemyre from the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Toronto Blue Jays. Part of that 92-93 World Series championship team.
Correct.
And many other special guests. So we always love hearing your feedback. We've had Steve Benson on this show. Steve Benson is with Badger Maps out of San Francisco. He and I have done a whole series of how to manage sales teams in pandemic situations, or how to manage sales teams in recession. And we also did a recent episode on how outside sales reps can transition into inside sales roles, especially now because a lot of places are closed. So we dive deep, folks, into how to be better in your professional role, in your sales role, in whatever you're doing personally and professionally. It's all about personal development and improving, making the best version of yourself so you can tackle your careers with the right advice, with the right preparation. So with that said, please always remember, be thoughtful, be careful, be intentional, and be safe. Thank you, everybody.